We have studied the book of Jonah, the whole book. Now we're going to study another book, and I told you to turn to the book of Acts. The book we're actually studying is going to be 1 Thessalonians. But I had you turn to the book of Acts because there in the book of Acts it tells the background story of what was happening in that church in Thessalonica.
Ma da ke pan pa ma pe o isama te de lise ma jonna na ko he lo to o ko he ma kun ne ma sra ano me pe de te predunya phu ku mana e atapa ma pe iswa le iswa ma order ma Thessalonian ko he mana ite de ma predunya phu ma sho pe de ma de ite ma Thessalonian ma lise ko ku ma pa na ke na ma sho ke ma te thote credit ma ai sho pe de ma ite Sorry
for not breaking that up a little bit.
Yeah.
It's very important for us to be studying a whole book at a time, instead of just one little place here and then maybe another place there.
Yeah, then nepe pingi ma da pe le so na ma asanu pe so ke tho ke chali se o chen ko mi de ma sana da arelana da pe una pe met por sana pe so le so da te ma ide le sa le to po to pe cha to ko sa ide le sa le po ko lo sino ko ada to pe che na to.
The reason that I say that it's important to study a whole book is because it's easy, if we don't do that, it's easy for a false teacher to teach false things.
Ni da pengi na ma ai chi ne thwa re ne ma da pe le so si ma pe si nge ma pe so lo to o ko he pe so lo ke to o me de ma ke ra ro sin ma te na ma ai si so su sin te no ko ona a me de se ko me de a me te to po he me to klo de ai so cho ban no me ko sin ma sa na de hu no ko sin ma su ko me na ke na ai a panel is at the o to ne ma ai so sin ma so su lo ko.
God did not write just one verse here and one verse there. He wrote what are written is whole books to be read as whole books.
Mina mi de asana chomre na ma arata ame to theli se ku ma ami to the hu na to klo si ma to ka ami to the mu de to on to ko he asana de ite asana khujona na ma to lo ara to ke mi de lo ahera pu de se da to on klo si no.
If we read a whole book at a time and study a whole book at a time, we get a proper understanding of what it says.
Mina kene pe ona pe pha tho pe so ma de te to o tho ne ma san hu da lui so ite na ma san da pe ni na ma a share la san pe lo sin ni na ma a yu lo ki ko.
If I was a false teacher, I could pick out one verse here and one verse there, and I could teach wrong things by showing you different verses.
Ni ken ne mara kia mu da asi swa ta ti re ma li sa la ngo to ne ma te ne ma asana da ite ameme da ite mat te mat ma to asin amme to klo he ma swa chon to klo to ba ai shopunera ro to close si no ko sana mi te ai so me no ha ai singi na ma ayunya lo ma da ai so ri si thi ba.
This is very important. The Jehovah's Witnesses that come to the door and want to teach.
Ma ai chi ne mo da ma si me thawa ke ma ki si thi da au na pri da he dok da si thi no ba.
They do not just read the Bible and study a whole book at a time.
Ma si thi na ma asara da ai li so si to na pha li si ne ma a pha da khlu to da no so lo nu klo no ko ha pha na to o thum da me po ni to o nu no ko.
Their organization has written many books, and that is what they study.
Mara esi phwe ko si na ma asana ra the le de da esi sa si ra the ga de elisa si na ko ba esi iswana da ma esi ra the thum te hin ko.
They will study the book, and the book will say, read this verse, and the book will say, read this verse.
Mana esi sa o ku si na mai sho esi na da kina iswa le sa the ade kya te ne ma sana da oma ade kya na mai sho da li se da ba phu me na ha cha pham me ba li se ba phu tu we ai sho ma.
That way, many of the things that are taught by the organization can be false, and they will not know that.
Mena esi na mi tho fegala de sa o me na mete ma sana da ma esi lo rapretesi ma ba go so du le te hi si no ha sana da a me le ho mu da ku bu che si no ha asana asuna to ma singi chep to ga ona esi na ona phanti do ma da esi sa o ne ma asana to a ta me che du ko.
For instance, the Bible, the New Testament talks again and again how Jesus rose from the dead.
Ani asana upama na ko ha da li sa se ku no ma ona ai sho to phomo do ko ha sho in ne ma hu da he ma ri kya hu da ma cham Yeshu no ha ok thok se no ko so tho ba ko thok se no ko.
But they teach no, his body did not rise from the dead. They say maybe his body turned into like a smoke or a vapor and just blew away.
Mana da esi iswa no ma he na amato ma Yeshu ani na ma a the a ko tho le to me de ma iswa no ma san hu da ma Yeshu ani na ma asana a thwa ka cha de mi khu go.
You cannot get people to believe things like that unless you just show them verse here, verse there, and just read their books.
Mena esi iswa me no class no ma kira na ki esi na ai iswa me no te ki ji me te ma san hu da a no pa ki esi na esi sa o he to ba esi sa o no mai shu ba hu da ma da li sa ku to pho na me ko san ai shu ba to klo na me na asana da ki le pha ma to klo no ha chi lu to no ha asana esi na ma a to na su betir kya te ma singi che do.
Any question about that before we move on?
Ma da sai shu atana adbun te hin ma si shu da te che o ne.
Okay. You don't need to turn to it yet, but in the very beginning, the first verse in 1 Thessalonians, and by the way, be reading 1 Thessalonians as we study. Be reading that at home.
Mana ma ona pe me da li sa ku ma Thessalonian li sa to ne ma ona si phak la de si nge ko ha da amadu ama taman ara taman ko.
Or you can listen to it on your phone. But in the first verse, this is a letter from Kupalu to one of the churches, one of the new churches.
Ma ba phon ma da pe phan ma Kupalu no ma ra he su he li ko ya su he de ma ite ma esi soroku
and this is the church in Thessalonica, which is in Greece.
Ma esi sora kuno ma o da ma do ma ite da Turkey ma Greece Turkey kuno.
And when Paul writes, he writes things a little differently than we do in America when he writes a letter.
da ku palu bana kina ma arali ne ma sana khone ga dina da pe rali ba pe rasu heli kunne na ba
In America, if you read someone's letter, you find out who wrote the letter at the very end of the letter.
ni kunne ya kina ma ke ne ma ke su heli si ne ma sana mo pi su hepe ne ma pe me tha ma me tha da ma ite sa ya da ma da le len tu pon ba shoma mo pe ra hepe
But back then, Kupalu would write, he would say in the very beginning who he was writing to and who was writing the letter.
Muna da asi asha keba na tpo kina ma akina ra asu heli si ne ma ara ra ga du ma amira akula sa yera akula na go hema asu he da asi no pha mo pe tho ba ma enema ali phira na ma mo pe na ma sho ro du da khelu ko
So Kupalu says, I'm writing to you, the church in Thessalonica,
baba na ma ku palu no ha hina a kunne ma vera heli na ma vesti no ra he tu ma da ki ma awda ma sura ku da Thessalonica ma da Greece ku ko
and Kupalu includes his helpers. He said, it's from Kupalu and Silvanus, or Silas, it's another name for him, and Timothy.
Ba ma ku palu na ma ra tu na order ma lu phira na ma o si so go he ma ara ma amui tu ba ra pa tu na de a ko so si na ma Timothy to ne de Silas ko
Can you imagine how wonderful it would be to be Silvanus or Timothy to work with Kupalu back then?
ni man atnin me ga sana mun ne da amun ne ja ma Timothy na Silas angi ke ma da bana kin ma e sinema amit me tu na da ku palu na ba
It would be a privilege, and it would also be very exciting because it would be dangerous to work with Kupalu.
asana da pengina ma mun ne tu pa sana da pengina pe tin na hu da ma pe mi che ga hu glo ka te ma sana amun ne ba te ma sana me te pe mi tu na ku palu ne ma ite sana da pe si she ka pe ni ko mi de ma sana bana kin ma ku si ne ma ki te hin ma amishi ku si hu glo ka
We'll see how dangerous it was when we look at the book of Acts in just a minute.
Untuk pasal pa ma da pememe mo ko da esingi na ma si shen ne si shen ne pepe angi mi te no ko sana da how dangerous ma te ma da esingi na ma benam bishe a upa singi ko kina mi te na ku palu ne ma
As we read the letter, because this book is really a letter.
ma o na pe pa ma ite alu su heli ko he ma li se ato o ma Thessalonian ma ni ne ma sa o ma to ma una da tama ma shu ma da ku palu asucha ara tho me da sucha ite da sra ku tu pur phun ko
As we read the letter, we understand that Kupalu had started this church in Thessalonica months before, and now he is concerned. He wants to know how they are doing.
ma ba da Greece ku no ko he ma ku palu no ha mi thwa the ma asana sra ku to phu gon ba bana kina asana mi thwa the tho no ha si singe ka da ma mi sra ku no ma te thwa the krai te no si singe ko
And he has tried to get back to that church, but he says that Satan has kept him from getting back there to see how they are doing.
so ku palu no ha hina ona asi ka me ka ne ma da asra ku bot ban to he mana ite pisulu no ma ona meta ti pe ma ku palu ni ba
So Kupalu has sent Timothy to the church in Thessalonica, and Timothy has come back and said they are doing well.
Mena ku palu no ha su cha tho ma ku pu ma Timothy tho ko he asana da ma ku Timothy no ha cha da sra ku mi da ka khai sho ba se ma ku palu no go hina ma da sra ku no ma ami lo pi ma reve amu re ka ve
So I want to take time, I'm taking time right now to help us understand the background, what's going on, so that we can put ourselves into this letter and to really understand what was going on at the time.
Kun na masra na ai show ka pe ko ha sana da asi show ta te re pe sana da ma ban ma khin ma asana da asi ma ai bi music lot te asana alira asu heli ma music lot te asana da ban khin ma tho the khai te ma sra si show ka pe ko me da asana da pe ngi no pe singi ta te da ba da asi ngi ma asana ayem ne ba te asana yu ne ba te no ko sin no.
So in Acts chapter 17, we'll look at a few verses here.
Da per nya pu no da amadu ne ba sakhu pe me ma ite to klo sin no to pu no su pu ko.
Tablu, would you read verse 1?
Predonia po amadu susa kama aku kama esi cetalogia vi apa pelina vi palun niro tete lahale vi serani vi ne te vi aku ne yuda pu te jobe ko utami.
So this tells us what Kupalu did as he traveled around the Mediterranean Sea spreading the gospel.
About pur mai shu pe ko he de ma ku palu na ma ba acha ka he no ko he acha de ma thu ma Mediterranean Sea ma thanu du wa na ko no ona cha na ma asana de acha do ku si na ba asana ba ai sali sa se ko no ma mi khrei ti nei shu pe ko.
We have to remember that Christianity was new, and there is now a change from the religion of the Judapu to now the coming of the Messiah in Christianity.
Ni bana ken ma pe be to mana esi ma li swa de li sa si ma atu iswa the pa be ko ya se pa ko mi de ma de khelu ken ma una au ver ma Judapu si ya ku cho be si to pa na ku ne ma asana de esi be po me ma the issue had a he ku pa.
This is basically the message that Kupalu wants to get to. He wants to get to the Judapu because he's always going to talk to the Judapu people first.
Ama kun ne ma wa Kupalu ai ali sala lo please in ma is ho ke yete je ma ni ne ma si is ho ma da Judapu sin ko me de ma en ma asana al I kene al hotara si ma de be ai be show ma da the Judapu si thi ga.
So when Kupalu went into a town, he would first go to the Judapu church. I'm not sure what word was used there.
Ma mena ha kena ne Kupalu no ha cha da viku te vi ne ma a cha da ma hu da ma hina ma da ale to pu ma Judapu si akucho be ho asi sroku.
In English, the Judapu place where they met together for worship was called, in English it's called a synagogue.
Ni la kulango na ma ba da aheda ma ite hotara ho ma pe hina ni ma Judapu si he plus da akucho be ma da kulatin ma hina synagogue.
Because this is the fantastic message that Kupalu is telling the Judapu.
Me de ma da che ma da ma Kupalu no ha si show ma Judapu si go.
He is telling them the Messiah that we have been waiting for century after century. He has come.
Ma Kupalu no ma si show ma Judapu si ma hina o da ma esi Messiah ma esi ponya na ma asana a he ha.
And this man Yeshua, he is the true Messiah.
Vai show na ma kia da prima Yeshua the pre na ma da ma si Messiah ni ne the pre.
See, this was difficult for the Judapu to understand because they were waiting for the Messiah to come in great power and destroy the Roman army and set up his kingdom on earth.
Mada juru pusingi nama asana da makupalu hai sholu nama asana tapacha esi omidema esi ma atnina da au pepo ma da issue he esi masai he nama asana da aheba ma ahe ti asana ni to kosi ti kesi jo no no ha he da pa he mi plike mi sagalo jo me te romesi te he na to ba una ami thothe ga du ma ma issue hi ba atni jo no no.
But wait a minute. Yeshua was killed by the Roman army, by the Roman army, and now he went to heaven. How is that?
Umna da esime thana da Yeshua esima atnima esi Yeshua nama asana Roman misage to ba Yeshua nama thek se ma kumina ame thana ho asana atni asinama aji chochona do ma Yeshua the prima esi Messiah na aji chochoto.
And so they would let him come into the Judapu church and teach.
Menawa da esi na lekha ko ma da kupalu no kin he kui he swa ni se da esi ma Judapu si sro ku si na asana lekha no ba ni we hin ko.
What was he teaching? In verse 3, Tabla, would you read verse 3?
Ma atama na ma da makupalu ama ai swa he swa ma Judapu si no.
Ro ai so pe etina ura oni lisa se ari akya natihi no azu le hope una akri ari akya ro ahina krida samre no cha ele premisi pleka uyi de prenama umite mitulu toparo aku I chotu preka ki tiada titi pa ahiso lope u hu nero ahina Yeshu de wahiso lope ti punya yite prenama maho kri de samaria no chalo de aku misipleka uye de preho.
So, now remember, the New Testament has not been written yet. So, Kupalu he is teaching from the Old Testament, from the Jewish Bible.
Bana kena mada kupalu he swa nama mite lisa ase nama arathele to ko mena wa ona jurpu amdama kupalu na swa nama swa beda malisa sera le sit o sino ko.
And he is telling them, yes, we have been waiting for the great powerful Messiah, but there's more written about him.
Mama kupalu nama da ai swa lisa se le nama da ma jurpu sira thikle dino ko he ai sholona ma da ma pe uposhu nama da Messiah ma da appropriate du pre ko he mana da Yeshu nama mo pe Messiah mo pe ni ne mo pe ma shololo pe da lisa se le ko di.
He teaches that the Bible, the Jewish Bible also tells about that the Messiah would suffer, would die on a cross, and then rise up again.
Mama kupalu iswa nama ai swa da ma jurpu si lisa se kuno ko ai sholona ma da lisa se kuno ma si lisa se no ai chope he ma cha ma Yeshu nama a he to da he ku nama asana da ite asopa sore na enenia pa mina mishilu na upa to ba ite en ma sa ga tho ba mana a tho ko se di pa ai sholu.
And then after that, then when he comes back again, then it will be with great power to set up his kingdom.
Mna da a the tho da mo ku tu hu nama asana ka kya se pa go ba ka kya se ku tu hu nama bana ke nama a he me ite thothe lo lopli ku na da ma ite sana da Yeshu ate lo lopli go sana da ami thothe Yeshu ite kingdom asana adoku asana moku go.
Can you imagine what the Judapu people, what they were thinking when they heard that? This man, Kupalu, he is saying that the Messiah has come and he was killed and then rose again and went to heaven.
Mena tni me ko da ma Judapu sia ni ho ma Kupalu ai swa na go he da singina ma ni ho ma hina o ma Kupalu the print ma he shop in ma da ma pe Messiah ma pe po nya ne the print ma I had told her he cool mana I had told no hasana a circuit to back take set more cool.
And he's been teaching things in the Old Testament. Oh yes. That's where he is being killed.
The Pabana Kinamahina mother Kupalu is sonoma I saw the Lisa Mamma never put my shoulder Lisa look but put my shoulder my issue no a circuit.
When Kupalu teaches this, immediately people divide into two groups.
Ma Kupalu I saw came out a regard kun he by saw Kino but Jufusino Sana Ali the Nisi to hino or Gelon the Puego.
Some Judapu say, oh yes, I see it, I understand. Oh yes, he had to die.
Ma Jufusi the Hidima, Asana Jima Kupalu Hego, Aina, Manana, Lisa Second Shopping, Mother Yishunuma, a Bisaga Pingi, Ajiga.
And others, they thought, we have to stop this man from teaching this.
The mother, I saw Ahina the Amato, ma baby me Tapuge mother, Itema Kupaluna, Lay Somat Quarry Canava.
So, it says that some of them believed. There were some people there in the Judapu church. Some of them were not really Judapu. Some of them were Greek people, Gentiles like you and me, that wanted to follow the God of Israel.
No other man is second to my shop in other ma is the Judapu, the liquid of Beho Guduma. Our Shishiman Judapu Simatoga, our pap, the mother, ma Romesi the Hinogama, as in the Hinama, would I see La Cracker ma Judaposition Resi the Hinama, or Gober, see Srockubun Kuba.
I'm going to stop right there. There's a few minutes left. I want to stop right there so that I can answer any questions.
Couldn't Masarai saw to go him, the Masanada, a sea upon Meshigasimada, see low, should that teach you or
See, we've been talking about a lot of background, and all these things will help us to understand the New Testament as we read it.
Ni mother couldn't ma be pammer, my mother ma the banakin ma tote crate, no make on him then this, and I can be singing at his cinema. There be parties a seco hanging him up, be singing as another the pinginama. It he crate, see saw crate in him as you look pingibo, singing you look.